Welcome to Nerds in the Dark. I'm Mikey.
What's up, Darnel?
And today we're going to talk about Glass.
I don't need drink out of.
The recent movie by M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, who I think this movie's it's not a spiritual, it's an actual sequel to Unbreakable and Split.
Yes.
Building on the cinematic universe that they've developed already, and explores more of what they already were discussing in those movies.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. It was a quality movie.
I actually really enjoyed it. I think that you should prepare your expectations for the movie as to what type of movie it's going to be and what type of movie it is. The trailers set the movie up to they set up your expectations that this movie is not just a sequel to what's been going on, but a climax of sorts within the movie, or a climax between all of the movies thus far, and between all of the characters. And while that is somewhat true, if you go in with that expectation, you may be setting yourself up for failure. We are making a transition in this channel to no longer really give big spoilers to the movies. We're trying to stop that. You're the one that told me to stop doing spoilers.
Exactly. I was
so I'm working with you, and I'm saying we're working on it. All right, cool. So we're not trying to do spoilers, but
there's like a two-part twist at the end. So.
Yeah. So there are some twists in the movie. What it explores in this one is whether or not these people with their powers actually have powers. And so that's where we'll leave it.
Yeah.
Overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely solid. I think that Bruce Willis's character was the least developed for this movie, but I think that's probably because they spent a lot of time developing him in his original movie.
Yeah.
I also think that there was trouble in this movie for not properly developing, for not properly creating an idea of what happened in the previous film. In the first film.
Okay. Unbreakable.
Without doing a proper recap for a 19-year-old movie, this is asking you to do a lot of homework.
Yeah.
It does a proper job of explaining some parts, but not all. And when you do that, you're just saying, well, I hope these fans remember this. I mean, we did this movie. We did this movie that had a slight tie-in 2 years ago in 2017, and now we're heading into 2019 and saying, fuck it, I hope you remember.
Yeah. My thing was Bruce Willis' sidekick. It was I could have used like a more like in-depth story of like how did y'all get to this point where you got the sidekick with the walkie-talkies and things, and it was like, oh, you just got a sidekick now. All right, that's cool, but like I don't know how you got there.
What do you mean?
Well, like it's kind of weird how he went from just being a dude who just stands outside of stadiums in like, security check. Now he actually has his own business, and like it's just a front. It's like okay.
Yeah, but you know who his sidekick is.
Yeah, I know who his sidekick is, but it's like y'all didn't they could have talked about more about. They could have did something like they how like advanced how okay we're gonna do this as a team. The whole first one, his dad was like, nah.
Yeah, but it's been 19 years, so like it's 19 years in the movie as well as 19 years like for us. So that transition, that amount of time makes sense in that world, and like what happens like his son being obsessed with him being a superhero, and then him discovering that he actually has these powers, then leads to like a life of this. And it's not like, you can still tell that even after 19 years, he's not like, he doesn't have a fluid operation. He just like, he's like, this is what I saw and this is what I picked up, and his kid has learned the skills to help keep him out of trouble. That's pretty much like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the movie. Well, I mean, that's what a sequel to his movie would be, you know, if it was just about him. But yeah, I mean, they didn't have to do much to develop his character, which is fine. I do think that it was weird to have gone 19 years and have him still be able to question whether or not his powers are real.
Yeah.
It's just like, are you serious in telling me you went 19 years and nobody shot you?
Well, I also like the psychiatrist. Like, I say, because like she was really like playing with his fucking mind. It's like, hey, we can explain all these things in a really scientific way. Like,
yeah,
just got lucky a lot.
So okay, so I do like this character. Her whole bit, yeah, was trying to convince them, and no spoilers. She was trying to convince them that they had no powers, and in doing so, it raises like some interesting questions, because you know, she's just like, yeah, you know, you had power, or we had to find you and we worked really hard, and you don't have powers. You're really just like, I specialize in people like you who think that you're extraordinary, but you're really not. And that's really weird, because he's been around for 19 years. So it's just like, if you got to him year one, I'd be like, you know what? I get it. Like, you got to him after, you know, you got to him year one, and he's like, you know what? Maybe you're right. Like, maybe you're right. But like 19 years later, it's like, dude, no, he either knows by now or he doesn't. You know what I mean? And like, he seemed pretty confident in himself, and then he was like, oh no, it's like, water's my weakness, and like, how the fuck? That's not even.
Like, maybe I'm just a crazy old man.
Yeah, it's like, how does he get like, maybe I'm just a crazy old man? Like, how does that happen? And then like, there was the Casey. I don't remember the actress's name, but Casey. I didn't like her arc in this.
No.
How did you feel about it?
She's kind of a little off. Like, it seems like something was off on like her relationship.
Yeah,
with the dude.
yeah.
Like,
It seems like she has some strange connection to Kevin and his alters. It's weird because she spent only a few days with him while she was captured, and then you can argue that like Stockholm syndrome or whatever, but no, at the end of the last movie, she was trying really hard to escape. She said Kevin Wendell Crumb, and she got away, and she definitely was still scared.
Yeah.
Just because in that time, and this is, again, we're talking about, in terms of the movie, I think this is only a few weeks after what happened in Split.
Yeah.
So within this time, she's somehow like changed. I don't know how her whole life changed, because she's still with like, she's with a foster family like that she hasn't really been like picked up yet, but like now she's got a weird, strange connection to him where she's like, I want to talk real softly with Kevin and Wendell, and it's just like, really, like this is what you're, what? Well, not Wendell. What was the name of the
Kevin Wendell Crumb?
Hedwig.
Oh, Hedwig.
Kevin and Hedwig. She's like real tender with them, and it's just like, I don't understand. I like, even to be like laughing with Hedwig was just weird. Like, there's a scene in the movie, and this is again with no spoilers, but just a small scene where Casey asks the therapist, "Can I talk to him?" And she's like, no, and she's like, why? She's like, you're the victim. Like, it's just a very like straightforward like no, of course not. And then the scene immediately gets dumb after that, because she goes and takes her there, which is like, why even protest if that's what you were going to do in the first place? Like, I don't get it. These criticisms that I'm saying aren't like, it's going to sound like I hate the movie when I say these things, but it's like, no, I actually really enjoyed this movie, but it's just, it's strange, right?
Yeah, there's a few strange things. I was like, okay. Like, they missed like a few like key points like that. like uh, um, the mastermind like doing things, or like some of his things weren't explained. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
like explain this half,
Yeah.
but like explain the first half, because I'm confused on how he got to the first half.
Yeah, there were some parts. Samuel Jackson was amazing in this. And half the movie, he doesn't even say a word. So it's really enjoyable when he actually does do something. It's just like, dude, you fucking rock this shit, man. I mean, I loved him in Unbreakable and like what he was, and even though he did kind of like drone on a bit in Unbreakable, in this one, I think he's perfect. And I think that everything he's about is perfect, and I think everything he does fits the level of genius that he is supposed to be, as set forth in the series. But yeah, there are some things that he did that it was just like, wait, when did you have time for this? But yeah,
So not when, like how? I was like, I'm not seeing how that works with your condition. So it's like, somebody had to do it for you. And I was
we'll talk about this because we don't want to do spoilers later. But like, you got to tell me which one you thought, because I thought like all of them were good. I just think that like, I mean, there were some that he did that there were some that like didn't make sense that he did, but there was a lot that did. But we'll talk about that off camera.
Yeah.
Visually, what'd you think?
Oh, I thought like visually it was like this dope, like the fight scenes, the underwater thing.
Yeah, it was good.
His flashbacks.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, I feeling all that.
There was some good stuff in there. I think one of the things that I enjoyed visually, but was also disappointed about, was some of the fight scenes. There was a fight scene that was in the rain that was absolutely disappointing to me, because it was visually very good, but for plot reasons doesn't really last long. Right? Like, it was disappointing, right? Because you're just like yes, and you're like, I guess.
Like, I'll take it.
Yeah, it's just like, fine, I guess we have to get there somehow. And I think that what they set up with this movie, I think ultimately this movie is either the end of a trilogy or the beginning of a cinematic universe. And the movie leaves that open, and I think it leaves it open depending on how well the movie does theatrically.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason it leaves it open, is because like, we might end up like, hey, this is the beginning of something new, or we might end up like, well, that's what it was. I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I think I'm okay with either result.
Either result.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Because I was like, oh, I got to see it. Like, I was like, oh, somebody gets fucked up. And I was like, yes. Like, and like, possibility of continuation of more people getting fucked up.
Yep.
I'm happy with that too.
What did you think about how everything was tied together?
Oh yeah, I thought that was like dope. They're like, especially how he enjoyed it, and then once he figured it out, it's like, oh, I like that. And it's like, it's all luck, and I was right. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
It plays into his delusion of grandeur.
Yes. There's something that it's definitely very poetic that everything ties together the way that it does, like, so beautifully. But I think that it's also cliche. It's very cliche that everything tied together the way that it did. It was super convenient. And the way that some of these characters are related to each other. And ultimately, I didn't enjoy that part. I just think that, like, it came together very nicely, but I think they could have done better. Like, these characters' relation, poetically, it's beautiful, makes sense, but it didn't have to be. I don't think that we have to live in a small bubble. Like, the relationship between between Mr. Glass and how he found Bruce Willis. That's the crux of Unbreakable. It is an amazing twist, and it's what makes that movie, it's part of what makes that movie spectacular. Having that type of relationship in the movie develop further to include other people kind of takes away from the first one.
Yeah.
It makes it less special. It makes the development of what happens in this movie less special. And I think that it's just it's a little tragic. But overall,
I agree with that. So we could definitely take that out
Yeah.
instead of a solid movie.
yeah. What do you give this movie overall?
I give it a 7.5.
I give it around a 7.5 myself. Yeah. I mean, we agree with that there. Anything you really loved about it?
Really loved was I really loved the dope camera angles that they shot, like
Yeah.
with the security cameras.
yeah,
As like he was like doing like the
Yeah.
fucking the fight scenes with all it panned back through like the security cameras, like someone's watching it, actually like watching the feed as
Yeah.
he tried to duke it out. I was like, okay.
I think watching the video or watching the movie, certain scenes through Mr. Glass's eyes was a really good addition to the movie. The camera angles were great when they were looking at the video cameras. And I think that the last fight scene was visually, it was very good without being over the top. I overall really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was our review of Glass. Next time on Nerds in the Dark.